Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Jani PENTTINEN. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Transfluent. Uh, we are focused on helping game devs go global by helping you localize your content. And I'm going to give 10 useful tips on how to better monetize your games. You already built a game, and it's great, and you made some money, but with a few fairly easy tricks, you can double or triple or tenfold your earnings from the same game. So it really makes sense to think global when creating games. The first, quite an obvious thing to do when you think of going to global market is translating, localizing the text around your game, and not only the game, but app store descriptions and everything that goes around it. Because as it seems like all of the internet speaks English anyway, but that's not really true. There's a lot of countries where English is not spoken at all, and given that the game market is very competitive market, even if the local audience can speak English, the thing is, if you offer them similar content in their language, you're going to have a competitive edge, and they're going to choose your content over the other non-localized content. And this is especially true in countries like Japan or all over Asia. In many European countries, say France, if you give them something in their language, they're just going to love you that much more. So with that in mind, translating should be something that you always consider when you start making games as part of the process. It's especially for mobile games. It's super important to take care of your marketing. You can put out the game in the App Store, and it's gonna get lost in the sea of hundreds of thousands of other games there. So you need to take care of your own marketing. You need to be building your brand, but you cannot just rely on using English language when you put out social media marketing. So that's the other part. You have to find out where the gamers are in a global huge markets. If you want to have Chinese customers, you're gonna have to look at the Chinese social media. You have to see, go see where are the Japanese gamers getting their news from these days. And you need to make sure that you put out your advertising, you put out your social media marketing in the local languages. You don't need to even speak those languages. You can have a few simple marketing messages translated, and you just blast those out. It's so much better than not doing it at all. And obviously, for paid advertising, it's a great way of knowing where your game is gonna potentially be a big hit. Just spend a little bit of money putting out localized ads in different markets. You can use Google AdWords, you can use Facebook. Just put out those ads. Make sure you don't use Google Translate. Have like high quality native speaker level messaging. Put it out and see where it sticks. And where it sticks, then that's where you should steer your marketing efforts to. Now, obviously, one huge win and a big secret around there is to look for markets that are not saturated yet. So an example would be if you were to make a children's game and you translated that into Finnish language, you'd almost certainly be a big hit in Finland without almost any marketing at all, because there just is not enough content for kids in Finland that they can understand. So there's a lot of examples of the of like genres like that, where you might have the top selling. You have like the Supercell games at the top of the charts, and it seems like all the markets are saturated. But when you look at the levels beyond that, the next step below, you'll find out that there's actually a lack of quality content in the local languages. There may be popular games that are in the local languages, but when you start looking at that, they may not be as high quality as the game you have. So that's a quick and easy way of finding your way to the top of the charts in some smaller markets first, get the attention from Apples and other publishers out there, and then build your relationships, and then work your way to the top. It's not as easy now as it was a couple of years ago, but it's still definitely a viable strategy. The next step, obviously, you get your game out there, you have customers around the world in the local markets, is that some of those players are going to have some issues, and they're going to start sending messages to you, be it via Facebook, Twitter, email. All of those matter. So I've seen a lot of developers make the mistake of ignoring messages that they cannot understand. You get an email in Russian, and you think that, well, I don't speak Russian, so I'll just trash it. That's the worst mistake you can make, because anyone who actually comes to you with a problem is someone who can potentially become a loyal fan. Even if they had a problem with the game, if they care enough to contact you, they have an emotion in a game, and if you can respond to them, understand them, help them solve the problem, they'll be promoting you to all their friends, and they'll be your biggest promoter in the local markets. So you need to find a way to somehow respond to all these customers. There are solutions for handling translated customer support. There are ways of recruiting fans around the world that do it on a volunteer pay basis, or maybe you donate them some game credits or whatever. However you do it, just make sure that when there's a gamer out there who needs some help with your game, you get them support in their language. One of the obvious things, obviously, here is that you need to be able to receive money. So when your game is becoming a big hit, it seems obvious that you have some way of receiving credit card payments, and then there's a lot of gamers. At the end of the day, you'll make money. But if your game becomes successful in countries where credit cards are not widely used, there will be no way for your gamers your players to actually spend their money. It's pretty easy if you are on iPhone or App Store, where there is a built-in payment system. Just use that. But if you are on another platform, if you're on PC or whatever, you will have to find a way. If you look around, do some Googling. There are plenty of very easy ways of using a third-party API that gives you access to in-store payments from China, or cards around Europe, local payment methods. There's plenty of service providers out there, and by doing just spending a few minutes Googling around, finding those APIs and integrating them to your game, you just maximize the chances of receiving payments and not leaving any gamer hanging when they actually would be willing to open the wallet. Another thing that is super important to keep in mind when going global, when building the game to begin with, is that not everyone thinks the same way around the world. There's a lot of ways how you can offend people, and even though you might think it can be cool to make funny jokes, or play with language, play with nudity, be like be on the edge, it may not pay off that well, because you might be leaving out a lot of the gaming population. So you need to kind of think of be considerate, think that the games are supposed to be all about fun. There are exceptions, but mostly think before you do it, and find out what's selling around there. If you read the gaming press, you'll find out what's big in Japan these days, or what's trending in Europe. And even though you probably don't want to start following those trends to an extreme, if you have the knowledge, that might give you ideas when you're designing a game on how to make something that will actually address the market before the rest of the world follows. Because the fact is, once something becomes a big hit, everyone will copy it. But if you can catch the trend, say in Asia before the rest of the West does, then you may have something there for you. And obviously, it makes sense to think about partnering up. If you are if you are going, seriously going on a global market, then find out, connect with local popular publishers or game developers, have them promote your game. Do, barter deal where you promote their game and they promote yours. Supercell is probably the most famous example of that, how they took over Japan earlier. They partnered with Gung Ho on character visits between the games, and they were able to reach to #1 spot without changing their game at all. They went with the same exact game. They didn't have to do any cultural modifications or anything that the Western developers are usually thinking of they having to do. So working with the locals, kind of fitting in, and listening to their feedback and letting them help you. That's one of the easiest way. Obviously, you could have to have something to offer there too. So if you have a game that's not well established yet, then this may not be an option. But it's something to keep in mind. With that said, it always makes sense to build a global fan base. Even if you cannot partner up with the local developers yet, be good friends with your fans. As I said earlier, respond to every request you get. Create some nice content in local languages. Think of, like, when there's a national day somewhere around the world, make some special content in a game. Like, try to win the hearts of the people around the world, because they are the best marketers for your game when it comes to it. When you release a new expansion pack or a sequel, if you have people rooting for you around the world, it's going to be so much easier for you to win the markets, because you cannot possibly address all the markets by yourself. And following that, you should consider, if possible, to go on a world tour. Be like a rock star. Go visit places. Find out where the local gaming conferences are held, or gamers events, and go volunteer to be a speaker. You wouldn't believe how much easier it is to go to a small country as a superstar. You might not be a well-known name here in the US, but when you go to Europe and you say that, here is a foreign game developer coming from all the way from the US giving a talk, everyone sort of assumes that you are a big name, and they treat you that way too. And by doing that way, there's a lot of folks who have managed to become pretty well known, pretty respected in countries around the world, while not being big names back here. And the same is true for movies, TV as well. So when you go around the world and start building your presence there, it's just so much easier. There's something about a foreign visitor that makes you big. And it also helps build your confidence, so maybe it helps you then become big back here in the US as well. And finally, when you start building something, you're starting from scratch, think global from day one. It makes a lot of sense when you think about it, but when you look at the games out there, 99% of the devs are not thinking about that. They build a game, then they think, if it's popular, then I'll translate that, and that's that. But the fact of the matter is, you're going to make your life so much easier if you think that your game will be localized. You avoid putting too much text into it. You save some screen real estate so that the localization will not become an issue. And overall, you just prepare yourself mentally to the fact that it's not going to be a local thing. It's going to be a big global success story. That's all the topics I had now.